Hello, my name is Jules Schulman, and I am joined by Grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura. Thank you for being here today. What's your take on the recent conflict between FIDE and freestyle chess?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the conflict is definitely net negative for chess. I think there are issues on both sides. I think certainly FIDE is overreaching a little bit. The threats they made towards players, trying to force them to pick or choose, based around the wording of the event being called a World Championship, is questionable. On the other hand, I think freestyle, perhaps they could have handled the situation with a little bit more tact, maybe not been so antagonistic towards FIDE. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't really think it's a situation where any side won. Ultimately, I think both sides came out looking much worse because of it. So I don't think it was a good thing.
How has your relationship with Magnus evolved and changed over the years?
Well, I mean, I think my relationship with Magnus, I mean, we're obviously very big competitors, pretty much from the time that I broke through, and he actually broke through around the same time, around like 2007, 8, 9-ish. I think at the start I played quite well against him. I had him on the ropes in the first 3 or 4 games we played, but he was always able to escape and draw. And then after that, the tide turned, and he beat me in a lot of games. So we're always fierce competitors. He usually ended up on the right side of the matches we played. But I would say sometime around the pandemic, the whole world of chess changed quite a bit. Tournaments went online. I think both of us kind of stepped back a little bit. He gave up the World Championship title. And so these days we're much more cordial. I mean, I guess we're still competitors, but definitely much more like frenemies than anything else now.
What role do you think players should have in shaping the future of chess, and how do they assert more influence?
Well, I mean, I think it's very difficult for the players to assert their views or how they feel about the game, because primarily chess is a zero-sum game. You have a winner and you have a loser, and that mindset, I think, permeates all aspects of how chess players view life. So it's very difficult to get a group of players to work together towards a common goal, because the assumption is that, you know, one player will do something for their own reasons, or they'll have their own motivations, which are separate from what another player will think. And so it's very difficult. I also think chess players, while they're very good at thinking when they play the game of chess, they're not particularly good at strategizing away from the board and sort of looking at things, you know, from the longer term view. So I think it's very difficult to end up in a situation where the players know their true value. I think a handful of players are very good at that, but it's a situation where the players need to think about, you know, what do they want chess to look like in 5 or 10 years, instead of, you know, what do they get today. And I think that unless players as a collective whole start thinking about chess that way, things are not going to change. I think that the governing bodies like FIDE will have all the power. So it's tough. I mean, I think, you know, you have to look at the longer term, longer picture, hope that something will happen that will be good for chess and will benefit you 5 years from now. If players are unable to really think like that and hope that things will become better, or be willing to sort of make some sacrifice, then it's going to stay the same. And honestly, I think it's more likely than not things will stay the same, because I just don't think chess players are very good at thinking long term. And I mean, I think, to use another example, which would be myself, I mean, I remember in 2019 when I started streaming a lot, around, let's say, March, April of 2019, all the way through the end of the year, my classical chess went downhill, and everybody was laughing at me. They thought that I was wasting my time, you know, doing content creation, making videos, live streaming, all that stuff. And ultimately, you know, I'm the one who's laughing at them, and it's definitely not a joke anymore. And so I think that, you know, what I did back then, it showed that even if I didn't know it was going to become something big, I was willing to take that risk. I was willing to sort of see if something different would pan out. And so unless chess players start to shift their view and they really start to think about that long-term gain or long-term potential, it's never going anywhere. And I mean, we'll see, but I'm not optimistic.